So, Chris, this is the first episode, I think, where I feel like we could have spent our entire hour talking on the on ramp and not on the podcast. That scares me a little bit, dude, because because if you leave me in charge of the controls, we'll just spend the whole time talking buddy to buddy and not actually doing a podcast.
You called it though, which is good. I mean, you kept us on the self-reg train there. Said, maybe we should have our conversation. It was when you reached out, we've been texting all week, and you had mentioned something about having a lot of different ideas. I didn't know if it was about our sort of week-long conversation or if it was about the podcast. But you know what I mean? Like just the chitty chat we had about my family stuff. And when you said you had a lot of ideas, I thought, I wonder how many of the ideas would be a part of the on-ramp or if it was ever going to make it, into the discussion.
Well, it's funny you say that because a lot of the ideas are not necessarily connected to the podcast, but it's just lately I've been digging deep into good blog posts and stuff, kind of a little bit of your flavor. It's kind of come from you because you're my awareness of your, what do I call it? Like your intentionality in using social media and stuff like that. I'm kind of watching you. I'm looking through the window and I see you doing your thing. And it's kind of piqued my interest in digging a little bit deeper in terms of reading posts and then thinking about them. And so lately I've been checking out different blog posts, reading the information, then kind of thinking about what's my take on it, what's my opinion on it. And some of that is about, that I might be doing a little bit of extra radio podcast stuff on Voice Ed this summer on my own. So I'm just kind of playing around with the idea of talking by myself. And it's kind of like, well, is there enough to talk about? Or am I just going to sit there and be like, And if I do that, I guess that's cool too for me. But so I've been digging deeper and I've been reading a lot more and I've been engaging in what I'm reading. And I've been reading a lot about, so here are the ideas like maker spaces coming up, dress code. There was a blog, not a blog post, a tweet the other day. And it was around like, if you were to talk to a student right now and grab 3 things from them and connect it to like what your goals would be with them during that year, do they meet the standard? Like, did the kids get what you put down or not, kind of thing? And that got me really thinking, what are the 3 most important things that I believe happened this year or that I would like to hear or see my students do that would make me think that this year was successful at that level, right? So it was really got me going, got me thinking, and I was really excited about that thinking because it provides me with an opportunity to reflect on this year and also to think about next year and how to adjust so that my little vision can meet with my board's vision and my new school community vision and have everything harmonized, which is not always possible, but that's the goal, to bring everything together and to have it as aligned as it can be.
Do you just on the, well, a couple of things. One of the things we don't do so often when we chat are some of the shout outs. We've spent a lot of time, I think, kind of let's say kind of weeding and planting our own EDU gardens, including family and our life experiences and kind of what we're pushing through forward. 2 things that you mentioned that really kind of, excite is maybe one way to say it, but that just, I find it's part of my driving force in seeking others to help improve myself. Now that could be for teaching, it could be for life. And I have a hard time at the best of times separating the two. There tends to be overlap for me. It's not as simple as saying just because, basically my brain doesn't partition well. My brain will look to create meaning and connections, and the connections go this way along both sides, and they go this way across the brain as well. So I like your mentioning of going deeper into, let's say, blog posts and sort of thinking more about less, maybe that's the phrase. And I saw, two people that really put me in that space, I find on a consistent basis, is I think the dude's name is Benjamin Dockstader. And I think I don't know if he's American or Canadian, but I think he's in Denmark. Like he's out, he didn't stay local. He's teaching somewhere else. And then is it Sherry Spellick? Now, Ben Dockstader, I can't remember his Twitter handle, but he's easily found. I think Sherry is Edified Listener, Edified something. I can't remember. I'll look it up afterwards. But both of those, I've started to sort of connect online with them and reading their feeds, because I find right now their stuff is challenging my brain. Like, I don't know. I read it and I feel confused. I read it and it's not simple. Like, I feel like I'm just eating my vegetables while I'm consuming my social media. And that creates dissonance, right? Because I think that it's really easy. I'll say it creates a lot of dissonance for me. You've mentioned before that, watching how I post now, how I post now in social media, or what I'm trying to where I'm trying to exist in social media, it's different for me. I'm trying to keep it different. I'm trying to engage. I'm trying to be very mindful of my purpose in putting a post out. And even if nobody answers me, that's the thing about social media, right? Like, your followers aren't obligated. And I don't think that, I don't go in designing something that's going to titillate and sort of like set someone on fire. That's not my intent. I'm trying to speak from a center where I am curious. I'm trying to sort of engage in what feels like authentic to me. I don't know if it's coming across that way, but that's what I'm trying to do. And I think in doing so, I'm trying to be more selective in what I engage with and what I post. And when I pull up like that just a little bit, I find that what kind of gets shaken out of the moment are writers like Dockstader and Sherry. Like, I see their stuff and I'm like, you know what? When you pull away a lot of the distraction of the World Cup posts and, talk about Trump, and I don't know what other stuff is kind of memeing right now, but if you pull that away, that's what's kind of left for me to look at. And I'm really enjoying my struggle with it, because I feel like that's the important stuff to pay attention to for me, because I feel like I'm getting into a space where the use of social media, I'll say specifically Twitter, trying to do the same authenticity with Insta, which is, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. But with Twitter, am I actually aware? Can I measure my improvement? Can I measure my professional improvement while I use Twitter? And the passive consumption of multi-feeds, I've come to accept, doesn't do it. So I like that. I like your mention of going deep. And the second part to that is that, the shouting out to individuals. Because if there's a backstory to how I've become the educator that I have through a social media lens, there are individuals on there that I think consistently feed me. Like, they are the necessary feed. I've mentioned, the operating system line before, but that idea that without them, I don't think, without them, okay, I can't say that how different I would be, but I can say that without them, some of my blog posts, my sort of understanding of education on a wider scale, my what needs to be done in education, where we see equity and we see life and we see culture collide. There's a short list of individuals that aren't just like barfing up their posts. They are selective, intentional, and they want to be there for the discussion. So I dig that. I dig that. And kudos if that's something that is kind of growing in your brain. Like it's, if I put that there, have fun with it, because it makes for me it's made posting more difficult. So, and that could be a good thing. Difficult's the wrong word. It just sets it. It goes through. You know that game Plinko. You know, Price is Right.
Yep.
You know, the simple version is just there's one chute. It goes from top to bottom, but there would be no anticipation. There'd be no measurement. There'd be like, am I on the right track? Did I say the right thing? There's something very humanizing about Plinko as you're cheering for this thing to kind of go dunk, 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 and hope that it lands where you know, $5,000. You're still pretty happy at making 50.
Well, isn't that the way life goes? There's that picture of life, and like there's the beginning and then the end, and it's just a straight line, right? Or success, whatever you want to. People have done different things with it, and then
A to Z.
Yeah, and then you know what it shows, like the way you expect it to go, and then the way it goes is there's no straight line. It's squiggled, it's backwards, it's forwards, it's everywhere. It just it makes me think, when you talk about Plinko, it makes me think of life. Like you start somewhere and you have a goal. You can see your goal, and then you drop the puck or whatever you want to call it, and it goes straight for the first one. It hits the metal and it's gone off somewhere else. And it's like, okay, do you have the grit, the interest, the motivation to start again and see if, now knowing you're not going to stay on course, you know you're going to go off course, how brave are you? Or that's not fair. I used to say that before. It's not about being brave anymore. It's about,
I'm getting uncomfortable with that word too.
okay, it's not about it's not about being brave. It's about you look at the positives and the negatives of chasing after something. Is it worth your time anymore? Right? Because I used to have this thinking that when you set a goal, you should go after it no matter what. I don't believe that anymore. I believe you set a goal and you go through the motions, and you may feel at some point that is just not worth your time anymore. The energy and the time you're exerting, the payback is not going to be worth it. Now, some people will still follow something knowing the payback won't be equal to the amount of effort they put in. I'm guilty. I'm one of those people. And sometimes I do that because I'm more interested in the process than the product. So for example, this podcast is a great example. You and I are not doing this podcast so that somebody will pick us up, put us on a radio station and pay us. That's not why we're doing this. And so to some people, they'd be like, why are you wasting your time? And for me, it's like, you wake up at what time on Saturday to do this?
Yeah.
I'm not a morning type. Well, I kind of am and I'm kind of not. But I mean, I purposely wake up to do this every weekend. And what's it getting me? I'm not really being paid back by someone else or something else. I'm intrinsically passionate about this. I enjoy doing this. And so for me, it's about the process, because when I was setting up my paperwork and I wrote down episode 38, I was really proud. I was like, holy cow, 38 episodes. We started this with like an idea of how we wanted it to flow and the purpose behind it. And now we're coming to the end of a school year, 38 episodes. I'm really proud of we've been able to do this. So, but for some people, they may have started this type of thing, gone 5 episodes and been like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to put the time in. I got to wake up early on the weekends for my kids' extracurriculars, or I have other things to do. And this is just not going to fit into my life. I don't want it to, and I don't want to put my time there. And I used to think that there was shame in that. I don't think that anymore. I think that people are going to do what they need to do for whatever reason they're going to need to do it. I used to use the word quit a lot. I try not to use that word anymore because I don't like what's attached to the word quitting. I don't like it. It's a downer. It's negative. Sometimes quitting is a negative thing. Sometimes it's a positive thing. When I quit my other podcast, there were reasons for that. It's gone now. It's part of my past. I'm proud of what it was and what I did with it. And I enjoyed my time when I was doing it. But it's over now. And there's a variety of reasons for that. But those are mine. They're nobody else's.
Can I put you on blast?
Put me on blast.
Can who would you call out? Who would you call out as being formative to who you are right now as an educator through social media? So who has fed you? Who has fed you? And you would say it got in, you actioned it, and you would be able to go back to that individual and say, because I experienced your thoughts and your POV, you know, in social media, maybe you had to follow up and you met them in real time, but primarily their feed fed you. And you can say straight up, I do believe I'm a better educator because you got in.
Whoa, dude. Yeah, that is blast, because as you say that, names and pictures are running through my head, because I believe that there are a lot of people that I either read their tweets or blog posts or connect with somehow in this lifetime that are benefiting me. So, oh man, that is like what you just said there, that question, that could be a whole podcast, because
that should be a job interview question.
Okay, so
just offhand, no, just sorry. I just, it struck me like, imagine if we actually finally land in that space where we can comfortably say that and comfortably answer that. It goes back into that exact same statement. Like, I haven't yet had someone stand up in a staff meeting openly and say, yeah, I really appreciate what that ministry document says, but I was reading this brilliant article by Benjamin Dockstader, and I know I keep dropping his name, Arthur Caravelli. I mean, I can do a few that got into my brain. And you know what? Here's the work that they've done. So we've got the ministry research. Now we've got the in the trenches work that they've done, and it is a research, well-structured response or exposure of what that sort of ministry idea resulted in the classroom. I've yet to have anyone in a staff room stand up and say, you know what, this is great, what we're working at our table group here, but here, I'm gonna feed all of you right now. And you forward this other article that you have and have that become the new direction at the table. So sorry, I took your win there.
No worries. There is no wind. It's because it's like, I can drop you just a couple of names, but your question reminds me of like the top 50 Twitter feeds you need to follow. Like, I could give you a top 50 of people that have entered my brain, but then...
Do you want to do it a different way? Do a different way, make it easier? Or do you want the hard one?
Drop whatever you want. I'll probably end up doing what I was going to do before you said what you're going to say.
Then. So, do it.
No. I want you to drop it on me. What's the question?
Who would you never erase from your feed? Absolutely not erase.
That's a good one too, because I think it fits with how I was thinking originally before you dropped that one. There are a lot of people that I would erase from my Twitter feed just because they're not active.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is like, it's unfortunate, because in real life, I talk to some people and I'm like, wow, give me more, keep going. But they don't do that on Twitter because they don't see the value, or they don't know how, or they don't want to. Like, they just don't want to put their time there. And yeah. I can't fault them for that. But like, okay, for example, I'll do a faraway one. I'll do a very close one. So Jonathan So has entered my brain space around a number of different things with respect to education. But it's more than that. It's his tenacity, because he won't just tweet bombs of like, read this post, it'll blow your mind, and how you teach junior students mathematics. Okay. It's the tenacity. He goes after things that he feels are not right or are right. And he has no problem going back and forth with a troll or with anybody else on Twitter. He doesn't. So that tenacity and his mode of operating in terms of an educator really works for me. So Jonathan, and when I say close, like, you know, he's in Milton, I could even go closer and choose people in my school board, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because that's exactly what it is. So I gave you someone really close by, like an hour away, and then really far away. I would have to say David Terrio, who's a high school teacher in California. And I met him when I went to the Google Teacher Academy, and he was one of my lead learners. And David's style and the way what he blogs about and how he does it really works for me. He has a way with words, which explains why he's such a talented high school English teacher. But not even in my panel, not even elementary, nowhere near the little kids I work with. He blows my mind with the stuff he says and the way he operates and just his style. Like the guy, I don't think the guy understands the impact he's had on me.
Oh,
in term.
Beautiful phrase. Beautiful phrase. That is, I'm sorry, that just that splits me in half, because is that not a little bit of the special sauce, the magic that should be happening with social media when we learn things? Is that the people that are posting and are not, they just don't know. And you could say the receiver should be following up and say, you know, yo, like, you have amazing posts. Like, I think that should happen more often. But I think that's part of the magic of individuals that use social media. I'll say for education, because I feel like I understand it. You know, I can sort of look at posts and other things, but I don't have a sense of what it means to be a part of the community that should be landing in. I'm a visitor, right? I'm not invested, let's say, but I'm invested in education. So I totally get the exact same feels that you just called out. It's like your words matched a sentiment that I didn't know how to phrase myself. It's where the individual has no idea of how on point they are. I like to throw the compliment. I do. I was like, you know, that really, like, thank you. I like giving the congrats and the kudos. But those are the individuals. Those are the ones that I find will never leave my list. They just have no clue, and them knowing it wouldn't change. That's the other part. If when they knew their importance to me, they don't change. They just keep doing it. And some individuals are really great at it. Others, you can see it's structured. It's too intentional. They're provoking, right? They're looking to drive change, not sort of provide authenticity. Sorry, I just love that turn of phrase.
Oh, no problem. So those are two examples, but there's many, right? There's so many people, and sometimes it's not even about people. Sometimes you see a tweet and it just gets you, right? Where you like, it just gets you, you know? But I have to say, the reason, well, I'm surprised you haven't called me out on this yet, but this week I pinned a new tweet to my Twitter page about what I tweet about and why. And it was awesome when you threw down and asked me why I did that. So I was going through my feed, and Refrans Davis had tweeted, it was a tweet about like a welcome to my Twitter page tweet is what I tweet about, just to provide some flavor for people who land on your page. They can see right away when you pin that tweet, they can get a flavor for you right away. Even, I mean, I was looking at my profile, my little description, even that is kind of vague, right? But I found that the tweet that she had put out there about what she tweets about, I thought, hey, this is good idea, because I think a lot of people, well, I don't think, I've been told people land on my page and they just see like chaos. There's all kinds of tweets on my page, right? But I also felt free when I wrote down that I sometimes tweet about politics, that sometimes I participate in Twitter chats, that sometimes I will go back and forth with someone about a particular topic. I felt like it freed me. Like, this isn't magic. If you come to my Twitter page and you read the pinned tweet, you will now know kind of what my flavor is. I do tweet political stuff, especially with the election that just happened in Ontario, the stuff that's happening in the United States. I tweet about it. It gets my goat. I don't know why. It interests me. But there's also really good stuff about education that I think that, you know, I put out there. and then I will retweet. And I think there's been some good back and forth things conversations I've had with people. So it's like, you and I have talked about this too, this whole following business, who teachers are following, why they're following them. If you're going to follow me, read my profile and then look at my pinned tweet, and then you decide if I'm worth your time or not, right? I just thought it was one more way to try to show people what I'm doing here with that tool. And I love that you were like, hey, what can you tell me a little bit more about this? And I was more than happy to tell you why I did that. And it would be great if more people did it. But I don't know. I don't know if they want to use the tool that way. I don't know. I just know that, I've done a number of presentations within my school board about the use of social media as a professional in the classroom, outside of the classroom. And Twitter is a big part of that presentation. And there's so much power in Twitter. And I think a lot of people come to the presentation and they walk away feeling, they might feel overwhelmed, or they might be like, yeah, this isn't for me, or I'm going to give this a shot, but momentum never gets picked up. And so you got to put in the work, you got to put in the time. And I guess maybe they see that as not being worth their time. So I don't know, dude. I'm in a zone right now where I'm looking for tweets that are going to get me thinking about my work, and then, and who I am, I guess. And then kind of jumping into conversations here or there, or just, well, I've been doing this a lot too. I'll see a tweet that catches my attention, and instead of responding for everybody to see, I just message that tweet to particular people because it applies to conversations we've had, or it gets us thinking about something new that we might want to do. It's just food for thought. So I'm really been enjoying that, because then I can have those micro conversations with people that we already have like a capacity built around our relationship and what our relationship is, be it professional, personal, whatever. So I've been doing that a lot lately, and I'm really finding that that's valuable. I'm finding valuable in that. I'm finding value in it. So that's the social media train, I guess, at the moment.
I like something that you got very close to saying without saying, which I think is a new way to look at social media use. And it's not often fleshed out well in any of the presentations that I've encountered, where it's like, so, post, woo, trending, hashtag, like that whole idea of the projection. And so we have the projection, that idea that, or the projection or the theft. So you can send something out or you can take something. It's a very transactional kind of mentality when it comes to social media. And then kind of leaning against that, you have the be careful what you do there. So we have the sort of like the OCT blue pages leaning on it about standards of behavior, standards of practice, don't trip the tripwire here. And then you tend to get it gets a little explosive that way. Like it's fear mongering to a degree, right? What gets lost between those two poles, and I haven't had somebody speak to it, I think, from the heart, because you could so easily speak to it from a marketing or branding standpoint, is what's the social currency of responsibility and accountability that happens between posting and stealing and getting in trouble with the regulators that watch us doing what we do. Andrew Campbell dances this dance a lot of time about the oversight and, who's watching us, who's watching the watchers, the idea that we're being told to a degree to become modern learners, which would include any social media and, whatever 3.0 ed tech tools will be. That's another topic we should talk about sometime. 3.0 tech tools. That idea is we don't talk about the relationship in between. And what does it mean to model and engage in real human relationship between being penalized and was it last week I talked about a chicken being a chicken robber? Did I say La Gallina Roba, which I'm completely mashing, but that idea of just going in and out in the night. Previously, we would have said being a lurker, right? You sort of move from kind of being a lurker to being a little bit of a liker to being a little bit of a leader, where you're sort of moving through your social media frames. Jennifer Casatod, you can steal that if you want. Props to Jennifer Casatod. Props to Jennifer. But it's that idea that somewhere in between there's that relationship. And the longer you spend in there, you build accountability, but it's human accountability. It's not commodified, as in I took a post from you, so now I'm going to share something back. You get to a space where that list of individuals where you want to build a relationship with is entirely connected with your respect for them as a colleague. Not just that they're voluminous in their postings, that they're just posting all the time. It's actually, they're posting good stuff that you just can't escape. You want more. And the natural step for me after that would be, if you want more, then damn, you got to get to know the person a little bit more. What's an easy way to do that? Say hello to them on their birthday, compliment them, you know, on the quality of their posts, tell them, share with them how it affected your day, these kind of things. And I would love to see if someone to come into that space within that use of social media and speak very clearly about the importance of building the human relationship through the screen or through the keyboard, without talking about branding and without talking about being an edupreneur and without me feeling like I'm being marketed to. Because on one hand, I despise the fact that our professional conversations on Twitter means that I have to be your follower. I'm not your colleague. I'm not friend has become kind of trash too because of Facebook, right? But you see what I mean? Yeah, you can be a friend, sure. But if you have 50,000 friends on Facebook and you just happen to be a person that, I don't know, sells coffee, there's a high likelihood that a large percent of them are actually your customers. What's the euphemistic translation of friend from Facebook? Or what's the euphemistic translation of follower on Twitter? If we're actually getting to the human element of that, I want someone to do that presentation, the FYI. Here's how you use Twitter. Here's the tactics. Here's the strategies. Here's how you train, transmute one of your ideas to an actual conversation. Here's all the stuff. And by the way, here's the 2.0 Twitter. How are you going to build a personal relationship with someone through that screen? How are you going to be more human in a digital sort of like space? Don't know how I came up with, I don't know. There you go. I just kind of, I riffed on what you said, but what I like in what you said was the accountability. That's what I was starting to hear. The accountability. How am I accountable for following you? How am I accountable by liking your post? How am I accountable by providing a comment? And then how am I accountable for the relationship that I've just established? We'll do this on our book tour. live with Clough and Chids, or Chids and Clough. Actually, Chids and Clough has better flow. Yeah.
You've got me. I'm at an intersection here.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just there's those ideas are still floating through my head. All of them that I was telling you about, which I didn't tell you about. I just called them ideas. When you talk about people watching us and who's watching them, you're right. Andrew does dance on that fine line, and I appreciate it. I appreciate him saying the things that he says, because he really his tweets can really provoke thought. And if you look at his interactions on Twitter with people, he throws something down and he doesn't have any problem discussing it or working through it with other people, which I guess brings me to like a hot topic, at least in elementary school, probably really hot in high school, but I'm not aware because I'm not there. And I want to see if you'll dance with me on this a little bit. And it's around dress code, which you and I were talking about a little bit in the on-ramp. So here's the thing. Let me just drop it for you as best as I can, knowing I'm accountable for what I say right now, okay? So you and I start our on-ramp this morning, and I'm flipping through my Twitter feed, and I see a tweet from Noah Daniel about dress code, and I'll read what it says. There's a picture. It looks like a girl took a picture of this piece of paper posted in the girl's bathroom.
Can you tell? Can you actually tell that it's in the girl's bath? That was the one thing I was thinking about afterwards.
Okay, the person in the picture, to me, like, I can't see the face of the individual, but the body type and other evidence from the photo tell my brain that it's a female.
Okay,
I could be 100% wrong, but I'm just telling you the cues I'm picking up from the picture. Tell me it's a female.
Yep.
Okay. It says, when you interrupt a girl's school day to force her to change clothes or send her home because her shorts are too short or her bra straps are visible, you are telling her that making sure boys have a distraction-free learning environment is more important than her education. Instead of shaming girls for their bodies, teach boys that girls are not sexual objects. So number one, I fully agree. I don't go to work wanting to shame anybody, girls or boys, or anything else, any other gender, or however they see themselves. I do not want to go to work and do that to anybody there. Number one. Number two, 100%, I agree that boys should not be seeing girls as sexual objects, and the other way around. I don't believe girls should be seeing boys as sexual objects. Okay, so I just want to put that out there, that I'm good with that. I don't want to shame anybody, and I don't want anybody walking around looking at other people like a piece of meat. So that I want to start there. Number two, this whole dress code thing has been a thorn in my side since I became an educator, because I am a male working in what to me has always appeared to be a female-dominated area, which is elementary education. And I've always been uncomfortable to call people out on the dress code. And I've been very uncomfortable calling females out. So what has happened is I've always gone to a colleague and I've always said, listen, this is like a major dress code violation. Not like, see, even I need to think about my thinking, right? Because I'm an educator and I don't want to be causing people problems. But when you come to school, whether you're a boy or a girl, and you're barely wearing any clothing, it's a problem, because like you said, it's a place of learning, and it's an established formal place. It's not the market, right? It's not downtown Kitchener on a Sunday. It's a place where we're all going and we all have the same goal, same objective, which is to learn and whatever. So I'm not going down this road of boys are distracted. I think that's BS in terms of that's low-hanging fruit. I'm not interested. I have seen boys come wearing like almost nothing. It's not appropriate. Just like I believe it's not appropriate for the females to do the same thing. But I'm not going to tell a female, I'm not going to talk to a female about it, because I have a bad feeling that it could go to low-hanging fruit. And then all of a sudden I'm in a situation where I'm defending myself, or I'm going down the road of a conversation that I'm not interested in going down. Being a male, dealing with females and what they're wearing and what might be exposed or whatever, okay? So I've always gone to a female in the building and said, this person, it's very obvious that this person, their body's quite exposed. And it's not about boys being distracted, or it's more about, oh, if that person can do that, then why can't I do this? And then you get this slope, this like downhill slide of like everybody now is going to do what they want. And so what's the point of a dress code? And sometimes that's what it comes down to. What is the point of the dress code if nobody's gonna try to adhere to it? And it's Why do we adhere to it? I believe we adhere to it because there are many people who follow the rules of the land kind of thing. Like it's in black and white. This is how we're all supposed to be, so we're going to do it. There is that personality type. I tend to fall under that most of the time. That it's a rule, so we need to follow it. But there are people who push back, and adolescent boys and girls, they push back. That's how their brains are wired. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is, let's talk about this for a second. I don't know how you feel about approaching people in your school and calling them out for the code, number one. Number two, if they get called out for the code and nothing comes of it, then what's going on here? Like, why are we calling them out if nothing's going to come of it? And this whole shaming girls thing, dude, this kills me. I don't have daughters, and I know why. Because God knows I wouldn't be able to handle it. I wouldn't be able to do it. So that's why I don't have girls, in my opinion, because I don't think I'd be able to rise to the occasion. So how do we navigate this? How do we navigate this? That's all I have to say right now.
It's I like how you end on the dad factor. So yeah, I do have a daughter. I got a daughter and a son. So on the inside, there's a whole lot of discussion around the agency that I want both my children to have. So, and I also within their agency, teaching them to trying to teach them to make decisions, whatever that looks like. I mean, you can go buy a book from Barnes and Noble or Amazon that'll tell you how to sort of teach your kids to make good decisions. What ultimately I think is, in order to make decisions, you need to take the tools that you got and put it to the test. I mean, for me, that's really what it comes down to. And it's no different for kids. You know, their sort of series of revealed moments that they go through are constant little mini learning experiences. And they go into it with whatever tools they've absorbed from whatever environments that they've been in, kind of held together with the developmental glue that they're born with. And then you have the discussion afterwards as to whether or not, that turned out okay. You roll the dice. I roll the dice with my kids sometimes, hoping every day that they're going to make good decisions that translate into staying connected with school and their peers, being happy throughout the day. And kind of like what, your post this week, did you feel like you did good? Did you do good in that school? Not do good emotionally. Did you action good in your school? I was just talking about those three things when you're connecting with, sorry, I say it again, Doc Stater, and he said, what are the three data points that you would like to use to measure whether or not your school is being successful in its intent? It was something like that shape. So you send your kids off, you do that drop off, and you kind of do that. You get in the car and you drive away. And then 7 or 8 hours later, you pick them up and there's your next data point. So much can happen in that space from leaving the protective and learning environment of the family where they're testing their mettle against the day, that, when I speak to my kids about making those decisions, ideas like dress code and behavior start with personal choice and ultimately become relational. So how do your actions, no matter what they are, impact others? Less about, it doesn't have to lead to, because you make a choice and you perceive that it's going to impact somebody else, that you should stop. I think it's important to understand what happens in that translation. So we've had the conversations around, if you wear a tank top to school, why is it that you're choosing the tank top? So we can start to come at that like environmental. And again, my kids are young, so we can sort of start here. Is environmental, is the weather, does this weather support your choice? So that relational thing, you being affected by others, or you being affected by something on the outside, or you affecting it. So is there weather there? The other part too, so they could be wearing something that's like, they decide to wear all black long sleeve t-shirt and pants on a 33-degree day. Well, how are you going to be impacted by the outside coming in now? So is it You know, are you going to be sweating up a storm and you're just going to be uncomfortable? Their school doesn't have air conditioning. And then there's part of the, then we can kind of touch base into the professional decorum. So professional decorum, which some of the tweets in Noah Daniels' string jumped right to professional decorum. But I think professional decorum, when I'm talking to my kids, are you wearing clothing that allows you to do the activities that are going to occur that day? So I will ask the question, you know, if you know, if you have phys ed that day, then you need to have your t-shirt and shorts. I've also said to my son, okay, you're going out to the playground today. The weather's kind of cold. Do you really want to wear, like he's got heavy cargo pants? I'm like, you're going to rip them. You're going to be caused some discomfort by wearing that. Maybe put on the track pants. So we try to break it down into sort of functional criteria, my wife and I, in talking about dress code. Now, neither one of my kids press back on fashion. Not yet. Fashion, culture, peer pressure changes the algorithm, completely changes the algorithm, because there's some things I have no great way. Okay, I'll say this another route. I have mentioned to both boys and girls dress code violations. And I would say equally. Discussions about dress code, I will always bring a second person in with me. Doesn't matter the gender. I'll always bring that second person in to sit with, to, you know, support, observe the discussion. So to that end, if I were to have an extended conversation beyond the, you know, your pants have to meet your shirt. If they don't, we're going to the office. If it isn't that quick, if there's going to be more of a mentoring moment, then I will call in somebody else to support the discussion. I hear what you're saying about the not sure. My response to you saying I'm not sure how to sort of approaching some of those moments of the extended conversation, I would just say my approach is to have another person in the room, basically. One of the things I posted this morning, because we wrestle with this in our program, we came down to, you have to be covered neck to knees. And I put it to, so for the program that I'm in, you know, working with students that are on expulsion and suspension or expulsion, we support 6 different high schools. And it's interesting how the board has a set of rules. The board has a set of rules to see how those are interpreted at the school level. So dress code is a common discussion across the board, but what that looks like at each school can be slightly different. Can they wear hats? Can they not wear hats? Can they wear tank tops? Can they not wear tank tops? Like, there's a lot of variations there. So we had to have what we felt was a neutral landing spot, which is neck to knees. And we get guffaws, like, what does that mean? And we're like, okay, well, let's untangle that. Neck to knees means, like, if you're wearing a t-shirt, it's above your collarbone. So that's the neck. What that basically means is between that space and the next possible opening where we see skin is knees. And I had a principal say, like, that's really specific. And I came back and I said, it's really neutralized. We're not addressing the spaghetti straps. We're not addressing the low baggy shorts and the exposed underwear. We're telling exactly how to cover up, we're not telling them what they can't wear. We're telling them how to cover up. And so no tank tops in our program. No ripped pants. So you don't get the opportunity for ripped pants, because that would be coming in between the neck to knees. And we've danced with that for 2 years. Yeah. I'm not sure if the team, because I'm leaving the program, I'm not sure if the team will keep it, but I found it was a really easy way. One of the things that was connected to the Noah Daniels conversation that I just find it's, as you say, low-hanging fruit, is when we don't. My initial post to Noah's post was, who's making the rules? What do they stand to gain? Who's checking their process? And whose voice is missing from this? I said, if this were a school discussion about dress code, and those are some of your basic kind of literacy tools, like you could use that, you're studying a novel, you know, choosing equitable literature for your classroom, you know, who authored this, who checked their work, whose voice is missing, is a really easy 3-step to figure out that we're off the track here. Last thing I'll say is time and time again, not time and time again, I've yet to see an equitable dress code written for students that isn't so heavily focused on what females should do. I haven't yet to see that. The specificity of the dress code targets females in a way that it doesn't males. So I take it back to who's writing the rules, who's checking their work, what do they stand to gain or lose, and whose voice is missing here. So I'm not as I'm fine with doing the direct approach. If there's a conversation, I'll have someone sit in with me. I'll also contact parents, which at the high school level I find often is the, oh, I didn't even notice this morning. That's one response. To, I didn't see anything wrong with it. To, well, it's their choice. They're a teenager. Some of the common responses I get, which again, I will dance with, but if we are in the professional setting, if we want to call it that, if we want to hold that, then what is the rule? And me, like you, I will follow the rule. I will. Then I will say, we're not going to break it to change it. We're going to sit down and talk about it and change it.
Right on, Chris.
That's what I was thinking. I realized I've moved my pop filter. Could you even?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed lots of pops.
Did you?
Yeah, all the time. Pop, 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 pop.
Oh.
I'm like, what happened to his filter? Oh, there it is.
I was drawing the microphone. That's okay. I'm not professional at this.
You know what? One of the things I enjoy the most, here I go shifting gears again, about the podcast, when I'm talking, I can hear you drawing.
Can you really?
Yeah, slights. Shh, 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 shh. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what he's drawing.
Do you want to see it, what I've put down so far?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. Oh, cool. I like it. You know what I've been enjoying most about your sketch notes, or whatever sketches, whatever you want to call them, the minimalism that's occurred over the past, I don't know how many weeks. You went from
we're not even in this week's drawing.
It's perfect. Right? If people don't know what we look like by now from your drawings, which they kill me. You draw my beard the way I see my beard. I'm one of those memes where I see it one way, my mom sees it another way, people at work see it another way. It's one of those things. I love that. But the way you draw the beard is epic, and I love how you draw yourself. You look like something out of a Saturday morning newspaper comic strip, right? I want to throw down. So, yeah, thanks for doing that every week, by the way. I really enjoy your sketches.
Oh, you're welcome.
I post them on Insta sometimes, as you know. I also have been trying to put them in the blog posts for the podcast, so I'm working on that. My Colombian students left this week.
Oh.
And my whole class and I felt like there was a bit of a hole. There was something missing on Thursday. No, Friday. Sorry, Thursday was their last day. Friday morning, get to school. I have outdoor duty in the morning, and usually I see them. All 6 of them will come to the back area, and they will sit on these rocks, part of the landscaping of the schoolyard. And I looked over and I said to some of my kids in my class, I'm like, wow, this feels so weird. Like, they're gone. They're not here. But a funny story about 2 of them in particular. There were 6 kids. 4 of them were girls, 2 of them were boys. And the 2 boys, we would chat a lot, like at recess time and break times, because the other one boy was in my class, the other boy was not in my class. But the boys would connect, and then we'd chat. And they would tell me a little bit about their culture and how things worked at home or whatnot. So on Thursday, their last day at school, I'm outside for duty, and I'm chatting with the 2 boys. And I said to them, in past years when we've had Colombian students visit our school, their teacher, whoever has traveled with them from Colombia, has always come in to check in on them, make sure they're good. I'm like, I've not seen your teacher at all, the person who's come with you. And they were telling me a bit about him and telling me what he's been doing in the day and why he's not been at the school. And then they said to me, he knows you. And I said, I don't think he knows me. I've never met this individual. Like, no, he knows you. And I said, well, tell me more about that. And when they said to him, how do you know Mr. C? He said to them, oh, he's the man that wears the short pants. And so we started laughing because in the 4 weeks that the Colombian students have been at the school, I may have worn shorts twice. One was on track and field day, and one was for the junior boys 3-pitch tournament. So other than that, I've been wearing khakis to work every day, which made me laugh. And I'm like, okay, obviously your teacher's talking about something else. And then I don't know how we got onto this, but I said, well, I wear long pants and I have a big beard. I mean, if he had said that, then I'd be more inclined to think that he knows who I am. And then they laughed and they said what I said. They translated what I said into Spanish. And they said, pantalones largo, barbe grande. And then I was like, I could see the light. And I thought, if I ever have another podcast, that will be the name of my podcast.
That's brilliant. Pantalones largo.
Pantalones largo, barbe grande.
I love it. Long pants, big beard.
So you can imagine I'm dying. I am laughing out loud, LOL. Actually, you know that my favorite emoji is the happy face with the tears coming down because they're laughing so hard.
Yeah.
That was me. I was dying. I thanked them. I told them that was the best thing that I had heard over the past 4 weeks. Then when we got into class, I wrote it on the whiteboard because I thought I'd forget it.
You totally need the t-shirt. That's a front back t-shirt. Totally. And you have to have the pants on the front and the beard comment on the back, just so people afterwards are like, did he have a big beard? Did he have a, that's awesome. That is awesome. I totally dig that.
So here's the end piece. Yesterday, as we're all sitting around the school, like in my classroom, we're all kind of feeling like, oh, they're gone. We're kind of bummed out because they were part of our community. Now they're gone. Mm-hmm. And in elementary school, like, dude, I was their caretaker every day, all day, right? So you get to know them, you learn about who they are and how to meet their learning needs. And like, I kind of felt like they're like so far from home. I want these kids to be comfortable. I don't want them to be homesick. So you just get into it, right? And I saw the best come out of my students in welcoming them and taking care of them and helping them out and learning from them. It was incredible to see. So we're all kind of sitting there bummed out. And the educational assistant that's in my class was in the room. And there was another educational assistant in my class at that particular moment. And she was an occasional, so she was in subbing for another lady at my school. And she's a Spanish lady. And so she looks at the board and she reads what I've written and she starts laughing. She goes, that's awesome. Like, what's going on here? So we explained the story to her and she was like, oh, you had Colombian students here? She's like, I would have loved to meet them and speak to them in Spanish or whatever. So it's just, yeah, pantalone largo. I'm saying it wrong probably. And I forget even how to say beard at the moment. Barbe grande.
It's a barbe grande, yeah.
It lives on, you know. So I just wanted to throw that.
The only other thing you add into the end of there is figure out how you say forever in Spanish. So long pants, big beard, forever.
So funny.
That's great. Those are good. Those are good feels, man. Those are good feels to have.
Yeah, seriously, it's a nice way to end. These kids. Here's the thing, right? So let's decode this a little bit. Mm-hmm. I've never had this happen before. I've never had international students come to my class, stay for a short period of time, and then leave. I've seen it happen in almost the past 2 schools I've worked at. Every year, we've had one of these. I don't even want to call them exchanges. We've had international students visit and enter into the school culture and classroom culture. But I've never experienced it, so I don't know. I didn't know what it was like. And it kind of hurts a little bit because they become your students, right? Like I never I didn't have them at arm's length. They came in, and my class, following our philosophy of my educational philosophy and our classroom philosophy, is walking towards Jesus. And so every time we do something either wrong or right, we look at it and we evaluate what we did, and were we walking towards Jesus? Were we doing what we set out to do as we operate within this environment? And so when these two Colombian kids came in, our mission was to integrate them and to make them feel like they've been part of the group all year. And I think mission was successful, because when they left, you could see that they were sad that they were leaving. You could see them communicating with the kids in the room and exchanging like email and text numbers and stuff so that they could continue to connect if they feel the need to. Like, I saw genuine emotional interactions. I didn't think it would affect me as much as it has. They just seemed to like soak everything up, and they really wanted to be part of this experience. So like, I remember their first day, they get there, and right away we have an assembly in the gym. Like, so there's no time to like, let's get to know each other. There's, welcome to our classroom. We are about to get up and leave the room. And I know you just got here, but we're all leaving. So even there was no time. There was no time to be like, this is how we do things in my room. This is how we line up. This is how we da-da-da-da-da. There was just, okay, so-and-so and so-and-so, you're going to buddy up with our new students. Tell the new students, these are your buddies for now. We are leaving. So just follow their lead. Show them the bathroom and then get them into the gym. But even at that moment of like what could be called chaos for me, getting my group ready to get out of the room and break all routine in the morning and go straight to the gym for an assembly, which all that is multi-layered, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay, we got two new kids from Colombia. I don't know how well their English is. I know nothing about them. I don't know if they have anxiety. I'm sure they have some because of the situation they're in, but I don't know if they have special needs. I know nothing. I got a package about them that didn't tell me any of that. So we go to the gym and we sit down. And as people are entering the gym, sitting down, I go over to them and I'm like, are you good? Like, how are you feeling? Are you good? They were like, this is great. This is what we do every day. I'm like, no, this isn't what we do every day. And then there was a little bit of that, building relationship, using humor and just messing around. That's how it started. And it ended with thanks for everything. We had fun. And on our end, we said, we are happy to have you in our community. We're sad to see you go, but you got to go. So I just wanted to drop a little bit of that because I'd never experienced that before as a teacher in that way.
I think that a bunch of things pop off. So if that came out in, is it 280 characters? What's the Twitter limit now? Is it it went 140 and then
I don't know. Double? I just type until it tells me I can't add anymore.
I watched the little circle. I got to be honest. Yeah, I just watched to see how the little circle fills up, and then I edit. If this had been a tweet, I would definitely be saying, reaching back out, I want to know more. Like, this experience is that type of a relationship building, accountable. I gotta dig into this more and find out what this dude did. One, because it's novel. Like, I've never heard of this happening. Second, because it's the type of experience that not everybody gets access to. Like, this is a pure snapshot into some of the cool stuff that could be done, that is happening within schools that other people at secondary, for example, I would never have a clue. Never have a clue. And then the third and final layer to it is, if I take our decoded, kind of like swing at it, is that, what did it take? Like, even if you didn't know what you were building, in retrospect, what were you actually doing? The toolkit that you had, where you might not have thought that you had the tools to kind of make this happen, but then it started to come together, but you're sort of in survival mode of making it work, especially this time of year. So then it takes a little bit of that reflection on that. This is the reason why we blog. This is the reason why we take time and space away from the experience and kind of scrapbook that together to see what we actually learned. So that's, I love it. This is it, what you just explained. And because I was there in the beginning, you were talking about it, you know, how it was going to come in. We haven't talked about it much in between, but there in the beginning, I got a little bit of the tweet. Now I got a little bit of the little bit of what could be the blog post. I'd be curious if you're going to sort of go any deeper on it and kind of shape it out. I'm excited to where this experience takes you next. That's where I would be blasting me. Like, how has this changed his perspective, or what is it fueling for a next step? Good for you, man. I'm jealous that you had the experience. It sounds awesome. It's like you told me about a meal. You made me hungry. I'm like, damn, I would love to try that right now. Don't care the time of the day. So yeah.
Yes. Speaking of meals, they got me into this chocolate that they have in Colombia. It's called Jet. Okay. I think that's the name of the company that makes the chocolate bar, and they say it's delicious. So I was like, well, you know where I am for the next 2 weeks. You know?
Cure later.
I don't think it'll play out that way, but it's kind of cool. I got to learn a lot about them. But I know our time has come to an end. Is there any homework you want to drop or anything you want people to think about for the next week?
No, I'm so not assigning homework. I'm curious. It's no homework. Here's where I'm in a thinking space as to here's how Decoded and you in your process with your podcast has impacted my podcast, because we had touched a little bit on this. You had said, you know, Clef, like, have you really not dropped anything for squirrels since March? I'm like, yeah, it hasn't fit in with my life. And if this is the amount of time I have, and I don't mean that in a real sort of like long-term, like my mortality, but I'm saying in the day, the hours in the day, it's been a particularly busy year. Both my wife and I are going through transition with our jobs. As I look at you and I give you both of us, and you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we're both changing jobs in September. So it's just, part of it is I want to come back. It's like I can't let it be the death of Superman, where it just kind of disappears and it's a money making, let's bring it back. I want to come back having a deeper understanding of that as a reflective tool as well. I do have somebody that I'm hoping to talk to in the next little while, and I'm really looking forward to having that conversation. But that's just where I'm at. Here's the homework. If there's any homework to this, so you got me there. Thank you, teacher. When it comes to reflective practice, at what point do you reevaluate your reflective practice? So this is predicated on that assumption that you've gone from, I don't ever think about my work. I clock in, I clock out. I sort of go home at the end of the day. If you go to that next level where you do start to, you know, become reflective in your practice, do you post it somewhere, or is it just for you? The next layer up, I think, is how do you confront yourself with how confrontational are you with yourself to create change in how you reflect? So if your process is not benefiting you, who is it that can help you do that? How is it you action it to sort of make the change? And then how do you sort of gather the resources to sort of figure it out? If you went to digital right away because you love to sort of tweet, do you go back to paper copy? You know, if you were on Medium before, posting your blogs there, do you say, you know what, I'm not getting traction here, I'm not getting to the conversations anymore? Do you flip it to a different platform? So maybe that's the thing looking forward. What does it mean if we're in the time, and we're in the season of change? We have 2 weeks left for the most part for educators, right? Well, even if you're teaching in the summer, it's still change. But in the spirit of change, how do you reassess and affect change in your own reflective practice? And why would you do that? Why might you do that?
Sounds good. Happy Father's Day tomorrow.
Oh, dad shoes, eh? Dad shoes. I'm going to put that one out. Let's see if it gets any traction.
Good
Happy Father's Day to you as well, sir. Happy Father's Day.
Thanks. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely, man.
See ya.
Ciao.